Hi, today we are playing with movement of the hip joint, which is where the leg bone comes into the pelvis. So, as opposed to, our hips out here. The thing about the hip joint is that there are a lot of muscles that cross this joint that join the pelvis and the leg bone, but also that cross higher up the chain into the spine, down farther into the lower leg. So it's quite a complex joint, and those muscles all collaborate to give us a lot of mobility, so we can move that leg in all different directions, front, side, back, rotating, and also stability, because we need both for us to walk and move around in the world. A lot of and a lot of the time, people end up with some hip issues. They feel tight, they feel unbalanced. They might lead to knee pain or back pain or some other kind of pain. Um, so it's really important for our hips to function well. A lot of our yoga poses and even our daily movements, like walking, are quite complex in terms of the demands they place on the hip. It's not a really simple movement. Even though it seems simple, there's a lot of stuff going on. Even something like if I show you like a warrior two, right? I've got one leg that's rotated and the hip is flexed, and the other leg, the, the, the leg is rotated in a little bit and it's abducted out. So there's a lot going on here. And it can be really difficult if there's some kind of imbalance to find it's just not necessarily going to be as effective. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go right back to the really fundamental movements of the hip bone. So moving it forward and back, side to side, in rotation, keeping it really small and simple, so we can really focus on the basics, and then we can use what we learned there, and any improvements that we make on those basic fundamental mechanics in our more complex movements. So all that we're going to need, I'm going to use a wall, and I'm going to use a strap, and I have a buckle on my strap. You could use anything that looks like this, like a scarf or a men's tie, or even like a long belt if you had a really long belt. Yeah, and the buckle is optional. I'm going to show you a couple things. So I'm going to start with the legs at the wall. The reason being, the wall is going to give us a lot more support of the legs, as opposed to, I'm going to show you in a moment, with the legs up in the air, where, there's really lots of ways for that leg to move in the air. At the wall, we're going to have a little more support. So that's where we're going to start. You can set the strap aside for a moment. And as we come up the legs to the wall, actually, I'm going to show you before I put my legs on the wall. We want to be a fair enough distance from the wall so that as the legs go up, we keep our natural curve in the low back. So we don't want to press the low back into the ground. What often happens is people get really close to the wall, and the backs of their thighs don't allow their legs to be at the wall without the back rounding. We don't want the back to round. So as I come up to the wall, you're going to figure out what your right distance is. For me, it's, I don't know, maybe 4 inches or so. As I swing my legs up the wall and rest my heels, I'm going to check that my pelvis feels nice and stable. I have my little low back curve, and the rest of me all feels good. There's no like issues. Back to my legs aren't sore. There's no soreness here. I'm going to use the wall for support. Now you could, if you needed a little extra support, you could use the strap as well around the leg or around the foot. You could bring it around the base of the heel or the forefoot for a little extra support. We're going to see how to use this on the ground. So what we're going to do here, I'm not going to, well, I'll just hold my strap here, but is start by moving the leg away from the wall and back to the wall. And I don't know if you can see, I'm moving maybe 2 inches. And what I'm trying to feel is the movement of the leg bone in the hip socket. Sorry, you can't see my face. And I'm also noticing what's going on. Is the leg moving sideways? Is it rotating? Is this leg pushing? So that happens sometimes. That leg pushes to give you some stability, which is interesting because you already are stable, right? Your leg's supported, your pelvis is supported. So We want that to all quiet. So you can make the movement as small as you need to. Smaller is harder, by the way. A lot of people think, oh no, it's harder to move big. It's really hard to move small and slow. So moving that leg away and back, feeling the movement, letting everything else be easy. Also looking for, is the spine moving? So are you rocking your pelvis sideways or back and forth? Is there any holding in the abdomen, in the jaw, the chest, the face, the eyes? So that's forward and back. And then we're going to do the same thing out to the side and back in. And you can do purely out to the side and back. So this is abduction. You can then bring it in and out. And again, noticing what's going on at the pelvis, what's going on with the other leg. Is it pushing? Is it trying to help? Is it moving in and out? Is this leg rotating in and out as you move sideways? Or can it just stay in that pure abduction? You're going to keep it small. We're going to change feet. And this leg, I'm not going to use the straps. You're going to see, as I move it out and back. And again, I'm checking in with this leg. And I'm actually even visualizing how the leg bone moves here as it goes out and back in. And you'll see if I move it too far, so the goal is not to move it really far. My pelvis is already starting to tip. I can feel it. So that's not the goal. The goal is not to go as far as you possibly can. The goal is to just keep it nice and small and nice and pure. So there's nothing else getting involved. There's no like extra rotation. Now we'll play with rotation. Let the leg stays quiet and we'll turn it out and in. And again, you can choose to just do out and then just do in. And again, I'm looking for what's going on in the other leg, what's going on in my pelvis, what's going on farther up. Looking for if my feet are trying to do the work. So sometimes, it's the foot that's trying to make the leg go. Nah. Let the foot and ankle stay relaxed. I'm going to do the same on the other side. And again, that strap completely optional here. Gives it a little more support. All right. Oh, and I'll give you one more fun thing here, which is kind of a variation of figure 4. And a little more complex as the leg comes out, crosses over. And you could already see my leg starting to rotate a little bit. I'm going to move this leg a little bit closer. Crossing over, and I'm just going to slide that leg down. So now you can see there's some flexion and rotation going on here, so it's a little more complex. And I only want to move as far as my low back doesn't push into the ground, right? If I bring it down farther, I can bring it down farther by pushing my low back down, but then I'm not really improving the movement of the leg bone. I'm changing the movement of my spine. And I want the leg bone to move better. Yeah, so this is like a little variation of figure 4. The leg moves out, across, lands, and as it slides down, you're going to see some rotation. And you can play with this on both sides. All right, and we're going to come off the wall. And I'm going to show you basically the same thing, lying on our backs using the strap. So if you have a buckled strap and you want to make like a loop and put your foot through the loop and hold the strap with both hands, you can. Or I'm just as happy just looping it around the bottom and holding the 2 ends. Yeah. So again, feeling the pelvis on the floor, checking that low back curve, whatever your natural low back curve is. So don't make it less, but you don't need to like force it either. Just whatever that curve is, everything else is nice and easy. And you can play with lifting that foot up and setting it back down. So again, this is flexion and extension. And again, noticing, is there anything else trying to get involved? Is the other leg pushing or moving? And then we're going to have the thigh bone be just straight up from the hip. And the leg's going to extend as much as you want. So you can see mine's not quite straight. Because if I straighten it all the way, I start to feel a little strain in the back of my thigh. So I'm just going to keep it a little bit bent. No strain, right? Who wants more strain? I'm also leaving this other leg bent. And I know some people say, oh, I could straighten it out, and then I feel like more stretch. Our goal is not to feel more stretch. Oops, lost my strap there. The goal is to find some nice pure movement in the hip. So by making this leg having less effort associated with the other leg, we can really focus more on the movement of this leg, which is what we're looking at. And we can move it now out and center, in and center. Maybe I might turn a little bit, see more. So basically the same thing we did at the wall, right? Out and back in. So you can see now with that movement, I have a little more leeway for the leg to move forward and back. So the strap's giving me a little extra support that the wall gave me before. But I'm still thinking about the same things. Is my pelvis rocking? I see this a lot, is the other leg moving to try and balance this off? That usually is just a sign you've moved too far. So you move a little too far and your body says, oh, I don't want the pelvis to tip, I'll move the other leg so it doesn't. Yeah, but again, we want to move this leg bone really purely. And then from here, we can also add the rotation. And this is another place where we often see the pelvis start to get involved. We don't need the pelvis. When the pelvis does this, we're moving between the pelvis and the spine. We're not going to improve the movement of the leg bone. So let's get just the leg bone rotating, even if it's super, super tiny. Then we'll set that leg down, and you can take a moment, you can compare in between your two legs, maybe stretch them out, maybe not. And then we'll try for a different angle on this one, see if it helps any. Yeah, so again, this leg's going to be relaxed. You play with that leg coming up and back down. So on this side, I can feel this leg really wants to push into the ground when I lift this leg. So that's really interesting. So I might want to work here a little bit more, or find some other things where I can work on this leg staying easy while this leg works. Yeah, and I'm going to extend it out to the side, out to the side. Whoops, I keep losing my strap. Out to the side. And inwards. And again, you could go out and in, or you might just do one. And it kind of depends on, can you really tune into the movement, and is there other stuff going on? So if you're going out and in and you're finding there's some shifting, maybe just go out. Just make the movement smaller. And then we can find some rotation outward and inward. And again, maybe you just want to do outward. And again, watch for that foot and ankle trying to make the movement happen. We can see the foot move. We want to work on the hip making the movement. So imagine and feel that leg bone moving in the socket. All right, and from there, as you get more tuned in to those fundamental movement patterns and really make them nice, understand, find out all of the different compensations that are taking away from those movement patterns, then you can start, well, I don't want to say you don't have to wait, but I mean, you can bring this awareness into those more complex movements that demand more, more complexity. Put more demands on what's going on at the hips and farther up the chain. So have fun exploring, and I hope that helps make your hips a little happier.